Mike Radich here, and I'm now joined on the phone by Tachi Palace Fights Featherweight, Art Arciniega. Art, how are you?
I'm doing great. How you doing, Mike?
I'm doing good. Art, you got a fight coming up August 22nd at Tachi Palace Fights 16. How's training been going for the fight?
It's been going great. I'm treating this guy just like I do my other opponents, and that's with a lot of respect. So I trained really hard, a really good training camp. So, I'm fired. I'm fired up. I'm ready to go.
Mm-hmm. According to SureDog.com, you're fighting out of Pacific Martial Arts. Are you still training there? And if so, who are you working with in preparation for the fight?
Yes, I still do train there. Mm-hmm. Right there where I train at, my head coach, his name is Jorge Reese, mm-hmm. my head MMA coach. And so what he does there at the facility with the owner of Pacific Martial Arts is they just make sure that I have access to whatever I need. Mm-hmm. So as far as, for example, the last 4 years, we've been doing is my head coach just makes sure he gets, he got my own boxing coach there, my own jiu-jitsu coach, my own strength and conditioning coach. So I have a coach for every aspect, mm-hmm. and just bring in guys to spar with me. I'll go different areas, mm-hmm. But a lot of the guys there, they're just a lot of tough guys. Mm-hmm. Just really a lot of tough guys, a lot of fresh bodies, and so whenever I'm preparing for a fight, everything has worked out to where I've been on this winning streak since.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I noticed from watching some documentary-type videos I saw on YouTube of some of your recent fights, I've noticed that when you're training, you kind of have sort of a boxing-style training camp where it's basically just focused around you. Is that accurate? Is that what it is? You don't really have a team that you work with. You kind of just, when you're preparing for a fight, the focus is totally on you. Is that accurate?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Once the fight is set and once we're ready to go, mm-hmm. All the coaches get together. We set up a schedule. So because they're also training other students, other right. fighters. Mm-hmm. But as far as when it comes to my fight coming up, we set up a schedule so I can have my one-on-one time, and mm-hmm. they can bring in sparring partners for whatever area I'm training in, and so it has been based that way to where they'll just make sure that everything is cleared up in my schedule, so it's full attention to whatever I need, and it's actually been a blessing because I've been in teams where a lot of us are getting ready for pro fights, and mm-hmm. and sometimes sometimes you wish you got a little bit more one-on-one time, mm-hmm. and right. I'm able to get that here. But the cool thing is, I got a lot of buddies that are getting ready to fight on the card as well, and mm-hmm. and I'll go with them and do my MMA sparring with them. But other than that, I make sure I just focus on a lot of one-on-one with my coaches, with the guys for each of those disciplines, and it's just up to me to put it all together when I do my MMA sparring.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Just curious about your training. Are there any recognizable names that you've been training with, helping you prepare for this fight? Who you've been sparring with? Anybody that we know?
What I've been sparring with a lot is Billy Evangelista. He's fought for Strikeforce
yeah. Mm-hmm.
for many years. So I did a lot of sparring with Billy Evangelista. Mm-hmm. And as far as for a lot of the top local guys here, I've been sparring mm-hmm. with them as well. Had some sparring sessions with Poppies Martinez, mm-hmm. who was the main event that
right.
night.
Yep.
And then also my other buddy, Isaac De Jesus. Mm-hmm. So I had sparring with them. And then, and then as far as for, I know I ended up sparring a pro boxer, but I don't even know his name. They just told me a pro boxer was going to be in my gym sparring, so I made sure I jumped in on that. So as soon as they told me that there was a pro boxer, I just my coach set up the time, and he told me, "Hey, you got sparring this day." So I just showed up, and I feel bad. I forgot the guy's name, but he was getting ready to fight within 2 weeks, and so I just got in there, get my sparring, and I'm pure boxing, so I did that with him. So whenever I can get with anybody who is better than me at a certain discipline or is a real tough guy, I'm always game to try to go out there and just to see where I'm at and see what tweak before my actual fight.
Mm-hmm. Now, you're from the Fresno area, right?
Right. Well, I've been living in Fresno for the last 4 years, but I'm from the valley, from like this big area thing. So I'm from a small town named called Dos Palos.
Mm-hmm. And the reason I asked is... go ahead.
No, but yes, I've been living here in Fresno for the last 4 years.
The reason I asked was because Dethroned Base Camp, that's Josh Koscheck's gym, that's there. Have you been over there? Is that where you're training with Billy Evangelista? Is it there, or does he come to you? Have you been there, and where do you work with him?
I've been there when they first opened up, when it was still called AKA. I was there when they first opened up. I had some of my other buddies that are pro fighters that were training there, and so when they would train there, and if my schedule allowed it, I would go and get some training over there. But for the most part, my schedule is always pretty tight as far as what I need to do. So sometimes it doesn't leave many openings for other things. But when it's opened up, I did go over there and I did get some training in. So I checked it out. It's a pretty cool place, but no, I don't go there on a regular basis. As far as with Billy Evangelista, he's been a buddy of mine. We actually, when I first started training at 19, which was about 11 years ago, Billy was training. And so that's how I met Billy. I've known Billy for over 10 years, so we've always been buddies. And so as the years have gone by, we've always stayed close. And so then Billy would meet with me at 6 in the morning because of my schedule. He'd meet up with me at 6 in the morning, and we do our sparring then.
Art, I always have to double check whenever you're fighting to make sure I have the right weight class, because for some reason I always feel that you're bigger than a featherweight. I always feel like you're a lightweight or a welterweight. I just don't really realize that you're a 145er, because I think you're just so much bigger than some of these other guys. I mean, I've never seen you in person, but from what I've seen on video, I think you're just big for a featherweight. Just curious, do you cut a lot of weight to make 145?
Yes. My coach would probably be upset that I say this, but I mean, I always cut 30 pounds.
Whoa.
I always cut 30 pounds, but I got it down to a science. I mean, I always make weight no matter what, but I always walk around about 175. And so, but it's one of those things where I'm a bigger featherweight. I mean, my first fight was at 160, and then as far as that goes, I did 155 for a long time. But then it got to a point, as the years were going by, that I realized that the 55ers were bigger than me. And so I said, you know what, I gotta see if I'm able to make the drop to 45 so I can be the bigger guy. But I wanted to know if I can be the bigger guy and still be effective. And so I was able to. And so I just stayed at 145. But yeah, it's one of those things where I cut those 30 pounds, but I do it as smart as possible. I mean, I never starve myself. I just put myself on a real strict diet, and I never starve. I carb up when I have to. I watch everything I eat. And so as far as so by the time that fight time comes along, I mean, there'll be times where I even eat breakfast the day of the weigh-in before I make my cut. It's just I was able to figure out my body. But yes, I do make a big cut than usual than others.
Yeah, that's one thing I noticed about you. I was looking at the poster for this event, and I was like, wait, featherweight? And then I had to remember, okay, he fought Chad Mendez, he fought Alexander Crispin, Jared Papazian. I'm like, okay, all right, now I remember it. You just seem way bigger than most of these guys. Yeah,
and thank God I've been able to, make the cut and still rejuvenate and do it smart to where I still feel strong. I mean, there's no way I'd be able to go to 35s at all, or anything like that. But as far as long as it's at 45s and they give me enough notice, I mean, I can make the cut easy without starving.
Now, after your last fight in November at Tachi Palace Fights 15, the organization ceased operations. They said they were no longer putting on fights. As someone who has built themselves first with Palace Fighting Championships and now with TPF, what was it like for you hearing that Tachi Palace Fights was no more?
Oh, I was devastated. I mean, just like a lot of us here in the Valley, where I was just like, it was was like a heartbreak because I really thought it was really gone. And once they announced it, I really thought it was really the end for the time period. So I was devastated as far as not knowing what was going to be next. But just like my coaches and my management told me, just keep doing what I was doing, and they'll take care of all that, as far as what's next for me. And so it just turns out that when they came back, they were able to put me on the card. So at first, yes, it was hard to hear, especially since the Tachi Palace fights, are one of the most most respected regional shows in California, and so I'm so happy they're back, and I'm happy that they keep bringing me back.
Yeah, I was devastated, and I've never fought for Tachi Palace. I've never even been to the Tachi Palace, and I was crushed. So I couldn't even imagine someone like yourself who's fought there for a very long time, what that news was like to hear that. But so you've been on the shelf since November. You haven't fought since their last show. Over the course of from November to now, what have you been working on? What were some things from that Alexander Crispin fight where after the fight you evaluated yourself and you're like, okay, well, I'm on a pretty good win streak, 6 fights in a row here, but I can get better. What were some of those things that maybe you or your coaches were like, if I change a few things, I'll take, my game to the next level and get a 7th and 8th and so on and so forth. What were those things that you looked at and were like, I can improve on?
Yes. Last year, I was pretty busy. Each one of my training camps is 8 weeks. So, I fought 3 times, so that was 6 months that I was in training camp. So it was just go, go, go. So once the November fight was over with, my coaches just really were, we just evaluated and said, okay, what can we improve on? What can we do? And so the main thing was just, as far as for the Kristen fight, was just kind of improve on, as far as, my schedule was so tight that I really never got much time to do as much Muay Thai as I wanted to. And so I really stepped up my game on Muay Thai. I had done it before, but now it was more like, okay, let's just step that up. And so we stepped that up since I had more time to do other things. So I stepped up my game in my Muay Thai. Did a lot more sparring. I allowed myself to go to war in the gym just so I can stay sharp. And so, it's one of those things where and then when I was supposed to fight in May, so I had already started a training camp. So I was already in training camp for a month and preparing for a May fight. Once that got canceled, then, we got to slow that down and go back to just working on our skills. And that's just basically working on everything as far as with my jiu-jitsu coaches, and they make sure they kept putting me in a few gym wars so I can just keep everything nice and sharp. So, but yes, as far as improving, that's, just like every other fighter that wants to get better, that's what I was doing as well. And so we just stepped up our game and just added some more Muay Thai, more hours as far as with each individual coach. So I feel good. I feel great. I mean, I'm ready to go. It's like, I'm excited. This is what I love to do.
Now, you mentioned that you had a fight lined up in May, but for whatever reason, that fight was canceled. Just curious, how many offers were on the table when Tachi Palace said they were no longer going to put on shows? Because, I was just curious because you hadn't fought since the last show that they put on, and some of these other guys who fought for Tachi Palace have been fighting a couple fights here and there during the time off that there were no shows. So what kind of offers were on the table for you during the time off?
Yes, yeah, I did get a few offers. I got a few offers for some local shows, and then I also got offers for, for other shows as well. And so as far as that goes, there was just a lot of local shows that would come into, what my management would tell me about as far as for a fight coming up. So it was just, I just let them handle it. So I just said, you guys just let me know when you guys want me to fight. So I just made sure I just didn't keep my weight so heavy as I'm normal. So, I try to walk around, at least 168, instead of my usual 175. Just at least I can, if I have to make a cut, I'll be ready. But I just stayed ready. But, yeah, there was offers. And at the end of the day, my management just said, just keep training. We'll wait until the right offer. So guessing. I mean, I didn't ask too many questions because I was just focusing on improving. So I'm guessing it probably had to do maybe money or maybe dates. I mean, I have no idea what it could have been. I didn't ask too many questions, but they would call me and say, "Hey, we're discussing this fight at this place. Would you be available?" And I'd be like, "Yes." So then from that point, then they would discuss it, and then they would come back and say, "Okay, you know what? It's not going to go through." And so finally, when the May one, I had agreed to the May fight. It got canceled within a month, and so once that happened, within a few weeks, I heard that Tachi was coming back, and so I was able to get granted the opportunity to fight, and then even better for the title.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. When you got that call saying that they were going to have you fight for the title, was that completely out of the blue, or was there maybe some talks about it after your last fight, because you're on a 6-fight win streak and 4 of those fights came under the TPF banner? Was this something that caught you off guard, or were they kind of saying, "Hey, I think you're the next guy"?
No. As soon as I won in November, I knew I was up there to be considered for the title. So there's a lot of other tough featherweights as well that were on win streaks at the Palace, just like I was. So I knew I was in the running to either fight for the title or fight for a number 1 contendership. So I knew I was there. So when I did get offered the title, it was kind of a surprise, but just a surprise for the fact that the Palace had not been, that the Palace was supposed to be closed. The TPF fights were supposed to be done with. So once they told me about the fight, I was happy. And then when they mentioned the title, I was even more happy. I was like, "Oh, cool, great." But yes, it was a surprise, but I knew I was there. I knew I was one of the top featherweights for the Palace that was in the running for a title, to either fight the champion at the time or fight for the vacant title. But I knew I was there, so I was happy that I got the call.
Mm-hmm. Back in 2008, you had the PFC belt. You lost that fight you lost the belt to George Evangelista in your first defense. Now this time around, how much does it mean to you to get another shot at trying to reclaim the belt? You had it once before, and then you lost it, and now you've kind of been on this mission to sort of get that belt back. How much does it mean for you to get the chance to fight for the belt again?
It means a lot. It does mean a lot because the Palace fights are it's a well-respected organization, so the belt means something in this show. It means something. A lot of the fighters that have won the title have either they never got to defend it because they got called to a bigger show, or even bigger opportunities came along. So it means a lot. But before titles, before everything, my whole mentality was just to keep winning, keep getting those W's, and hopefully get the call from a big organization. So the goal has always been to get as far as I can in this sport, as long as I'm having fun. As long as I keep having fun, get as far as I can in this sport. So this title, but now that it is for a title, I mean, it does mean a lot because I know the belt's well respected. But for me, it's almost like it's a redemption. It's like I want to get this title and I'm going to do it right this time. It's like back then, it was my mentality was a little different as far as knowing what I had, as far as knowing what I had the title. I mean, I always fight to win, but as far as I was going to be a better champion. And so this time I want to get that belt with the same mentality I always have for all my fights, which is to be the best art possible and go out there and just display the skills that I know I have. But I get this belt, I get to do it right this time. I get to do it right. And so I'm looking forward to winning this belt and being a champion.
Mm-hmm. Now, you hit a rough patch in your career from May 2008 to April 2009. You were 1-3 in that stretch. You had losses to George Evangelista, Tony Boyles, and Chad Mendez during that time. What went wrong for you during that time, and how were you able to pull things back together and go on this 6-fight win streak? Because right now you're looking better than ever. How were you able to do it, and what went wrong for you during that rough patch?
Yeah, that actually was a rough patch. You're right, absolutely, and I was I always remember what I went through. Sometimes, what doesn't break you makes you. Either it's gonna break you or make you, and it made me. But yes, it was a rough patch. I had just become the champion in January. Everything was good. Everything was good at my job. I had a full-time job. I was on a win streak then when I became the champion, and so everything was good. But I didn't take it as serious as I should have, because it's like, now that I'm the champion, it's like no matter who I fight next, it's the number one contender. It's the guy that is going to be the toughest of the toughest there. And I didn't take it as serious as I should have. I still train hard like I always do, but I didn't take it serious as I always did. And then obviously, life happened. Everything just crashed down on me at once. It's like I ended up losing my job. I ended up getting, laid off from work. So that was devastating. Then while I was in training camp to fight George Evangelista, within my second week of training camp is when I lost my job. So I ended up losing my apartment. And so it's like I had my place to live, my guaranteed income every 2 weeks was gone. So my thoughts were on everything else. Everything was on like, what am I going to do now? What's going to happen now? Well, I'm trying to get ready to face this killer of a challenger who's ready to take my belt. So I was training as hard as I could while trying to deal with all these, all these finances and everything happening in my life all at once. So yeah, so I lost, I wasn't focused. I wasn't focused in fighting. It wasn't my number one priority anymore. And so when I lost the belt to George, we went to a decision. I mean, we got fight of the night. We got a bonus check. Right. So I mean, I was happy about that. But I was devastated that I let my belt slip away. I think, and so when I took the Tony Boyles fight, which is, it was supposed to be like kind of like a comeback fight. Right. So I took the fight like almost immediately. Like literally, I had like 2 weeks off. They told me about it, and I still wasn't focused. I still didn't have a place to live. I didn't have anything. It's like everything was just bad. So I was trying to get ready for this fight, and it was the same thing where I just wasn't focused. I wasn't focused. I wasn't training as hard as I should have trained. I wasn't doing my visualizations. I wasn't doing everything I would always do to win. Everything I would do that got me to the belt. Everything I would do. It wasn't happening no more. And then finally, he catches me. It was a 9 second. Right. He knocks me out in 9 seconds. I didn't even get to fight. I didn't get to see what he had. It's just basically he hit me, he got me, and you know what? He capitalized on it, and good for him. And so right there it was like, whoa, okay, I got to evaluate things. Then I got the Papazian fight, and so I took that fight because I knew I didn't want to end the year without getting a W. My mentality was like, I need to get a W. So I took that fight at Pure Combat, and I took it against Papazian. I was able to beat him, but I still wasn't focusing. I still wasn't getting things in order. Then finally, it got to the point where my head coach now, I had known him through Billy and George, because George Evangelista was one of my buddies. We just ended up fighting. Right. I met Jorge, my head coach Jorge, through George and Billy, and as time went by, he would always try to help me, but I wasn't paying attention. And then finally, after I lost to Chad Mendes, we were already friends, and he says, you know what? He just gave me a good talk. He told me his vision, told me what if I believed and if I trusted in him that he can get me to a streak. He said, I can get you to where you want to get if you just listen. And so I was all on. And then he let me rent free. He let me have his studio. Instead of renting it out, he let me stay in his studio rent free. I had a place to live. All he asked of me was just to train. And that's all we did. We just trained on everything. And after a year of just not fighting, just all I did was train, follow whatever he wanted me to follow. He started gathering all the coaches together, the boxing coach, the jiu-jitsu coach, strength and conditioning. We made sure we're on the same page. He just got this outlet, would always talk to me, explain to me, help me find the love for MMA again. And so, and like you said, I've been on a rough patch, so I was just kind of like, man, I gotta get through this hump. Either I'm gonna do this or not. Either I'm gonna have fun with this or not. And so once it started being fun again, once I started putting things together, then I haven't lost since. And, and I have to, and I've always thanked him every time we're together. I always thank him for helping me save my career. And so I've trusted him this whole time. And here we are, 6-fight win streak 4 years later. And I'm probably it's like I'm the best fighter that every fight I strive to be the best I can possibly be. But yeah, that rough patch was just my mentality. My focus was somewhere else. So now, nothing can mess my mind up. I already been through that. So now if something happens, finances or whatever, it doesn't take my focus from training because I know what it did to me in the past. So now it's like, you know what? If my car is broken down, I don't even care. I'm just going to go train. Because no matter what, my car's still going to be broken down when I walk outside. So might as well just think about it later. So now, every time I go to training, I'm able to focus on just pure training. So it took some time. It took some time. It took me that patch to get through my mentality that I have now. So I think it's one of those things where it was just meant to be.
Art, are you a full-time fighter, or do you work a second job? I know you said during that rough patch you were laid off, but now since things are coming back together for you, are you able to do the fighting thing full-time, or do you also have another job?
No, I do have a full-time job. I do, and that's why I said, earlier that my schedule is just so tight. It's just so restricted.
Right.
But I do have a full-time job, but I just, obviously me fighting at the regional shows, the bills that I have, and me wanting to have good things, I can't solely rely on my fight checks or my sponsors.
Right.
So I refuse to have that stress. So I just said, as long as I can keep winning while having a full-time job, I'm going to keep doing it. And that's one stress I never have to worry about. I don't stress that I have to win. I have to win this fight to get that second check. I have to. There's no more have-tos. It's just me going out there having fun and stress-free, because no matter what, when the fight's over, my bills are paid. I have a job, so that me having that job, it's good for me just for stress-wise. Like, all my bills are paid. I have good things. So the fight thing is just bonus money. Now, instead of that being my income money, it's just bonus money. So, all that money is just like, it's just straight bonus. It just goes to my savings, and it feels better. So yes, I do have a full-time job. It's a strict schedule because I got to get up, at 5 in the morning to go train, be at work from 8 to 4, and then from 4:30 to 9:30 I'm training. So, but I'm used to it. I'm used to it. So, and I've been winning. So I'm just gonna keep it flowing. Obviously, if I get to the bigger show and I'm able to make more money, then I can invest that period to go full time. But for now, I refuse to be stressing over finances.
At 31 years old, do you feel right now that you're in the prime of your career?
Yes, I do. I feel like I'm starting to hit my prime. Everything makes so much sense more. I could see more things. I could, as far as my way of thinking, my way of training, knowing my body, things I can execute, things I can see, everything's just hitting. So yes, I do feel like I'm in my prime, and I don't even feel like I've hit the peak of my prime. I'm still learning. I'm still getting better, and I haven't been in many wars in the cage as far as cage wise goes. I've been able to avoid, out of 17 fights, not many have been like drag out wars. So I've still been able to stay healthy. So I mean, yes, I'm just looking forward to enjoying this prime and hitting, and like I said, I don't even feel like I hit my peak yet.
Obviously, you're trying to make it to a big show. I'm sure you would love to be in the UFC. Do you feel that this fight, getting a win here and getting that TPF belt, that's kind of the last piece of the puzzle to getting that call? Because we've seen tons of guys come from Tachi Palace fights, guys like John Alessio, David Mitchell, Gabe Rudiger, Eddie Yagan, do well in Tachi Palace, get that belt, and then that's their ticket to the big show. Do you feel that if you get this win here, that you'll be that guy getting that ticket and going on to bigger and better things?
Yes, I do. I absolutely do. I feel like this is this is the last piece of the puzzle, the last piece of the journey of this goal of being the best, best in my area, being one of the best in my area. So I think it's a piece of the puzzle to where I can go, to a bigger show and set new goals, set goals to be the best in that organization. Mm-hmm. So yes, I have a good management team. I have a good, I have good coaching staff. So I mean, I feel that if I'm meant to, if it's meant for me to be in a bigger show, I'm doing everything I can control on my end to be the best and to give myself the opportunity. And so if at the end of the day, if it is my destiny to make it to a bigger show, there's no better time than now. I'm a way better fighter if it's going to happen, I'm glad it's happening to me here at 31 than when I was a champion back at PFC back at 26. Mm-hmm. I feel I'm better prepared for the big show now. So I'm ready. If I'm doing everything I can on my side. Mm-hmm. So if it's meant to be, I'm ready to go.
Mm-hmm. Art, just curious, why haven't you fought in a big show over the course of your career? Because Strikeforce, they were always a Northern California-based promotion. They did some Strikeforce Challengers events, and of course they had their great events out in San Jose. And then also Bellator, they did a fight card at Tachi Palace. Just curious, why haven't we seen you on a big show before? What kind of held you back from getting a call there?
Sometimes I do think about that. What it was, mm-hmm. But if anything, sometimes what may have happened is probably just my loyalty to my old manager. Mm-hmm. My old manager was one of my friends, and he's still my friend to this day. And so he was able to get me my fights at first, mm-hmm. and he's the one that got me my title shot when it was back in the PFC. So right. I just always stayed with him, and when my eyes were awakened and saying like we need to change something was when I had heard Papazian got mm-hmm. the contract to the UFC, mm-hmm. and that's when I was like, man, how can a guy that I beat get there before I did? And so I talked to my old manager, my buddy. I told him like, hey, we got to do something. We need to change something. I'm not getting any younger. I'm getting better, but I want to prove. I want to prove myself with the toughest guys out there. I mean, we need to do it now. And so he finally, we're friends first. We're friends first. So he finally started making some calls, started calling bigger managers around, and he started contacting all these managers. And finally, we had some interviews with different managers that were interested. And then finally, at the end, we decided to go with Jason House, mm-hmm. Who's my manager now. And we just signed with him. I barely got with him. What was it? Last year, and he's the one that was able to back in February of last year. That's when I signed with his agency, and so here we are now. But my buddy just finally said, hey, he didn't even tell me. He just got all these interviews set up. He's like, hey, you got an interview with this manager, that manager, this manager. At the end of the day, you got to let me know which one you feel more comfortable with, and that's where we're going to go, because I have taken you as far as I can take you, and I don't want to be the reason that you never make it to that next level. Because, my manager, he can call the promoters in the local areas and talk to them, but he wasn't able to make a call to Dana White, mm-hmm. At least, and he understood that. And so with these new managers, they're already in there. And so I've been lucky to my part and keep winning, and now, it's my manager's job to do the rest. So hopefully everything lines up correct.
Mm-hmm. Art, you're a guy who right now is flying under the radar. Obviously, these 6 fights that you have had in a row, that would be enough to catch the eye of any promoter. But for some reason, you're not the big show yet. But I'm sure you continue to win. It's inevitable that you'll be there. But you're still flying under the radar a bit. I looked at your Twitter. You only have 62 followers. People, if you're not an industry insider or just a diehard fan or a local of the California fight scene, I don't think a lot of people really know too much about you. Do you feel that you are being overlooked and you are flying under the radar? Is it because possibly some of these fights that you've had in recent memory have gone to decision? Is it just that you haven't really gotten the push in lack of exposure? I'm just curious, why have you been flying under the radar?
No, yeah, I mean that's a very good question, and so I mean, it could be many factors, you know. But yes, I mean, obviously, you know, my fights last year went to decisions, and so you know that could have something to do with it as well. But you know, it's like I understand. I mean, I understand how this sport can be. I know how cutthroat it can be, but it's like people forget that all my fights before last year, you know, 90% of them were finishes. You know, I was a finisher. That's all I did. And so when this year, you know, you got, you know, 3 fights in a row where they're decisions, you know, maybe, you know, people, you know, I don't know, maybe promoters weren't, you know, they wanted to see the finishes or whatnot. And so, I mean, I don't know. It just, it could have something to do with it. And so, I mean, all I can do is just keep doing my best and just keep getting those W's. I mean, no matter what, I'm always out there to win. So I mean, that could be it. And so, but I mean, even prior to that, you know, even prior to these decisions, I mean, I was finishing people, and I was still flying under the radar. So what always kept me in the positive light was that I just told myself that when the time came, you know, I'll be ready. And so that's what I did. My coaches kept me focused, keep getting better, keep training. When the time comes, you'll be ready. And so that's what I just did. And that's what just kept me positive. Just like, you know what, when the time is right, I'll be ready for anybody. And that's how I feel right now. I feel that you can put me against anybody, and I can hang with anybody, any style. I can hang with them. They're not going to go in there and just throw me around like if I don't know what I'm doing. I can hang with anybody, but I embrace the wars. I embrace everything. So I mean, as far as why I've been overlooked, I don't know. It's one of those things where I have no idea. But hopefully with this win, that'll end and be ready for whoever's next. But you know, this guy here coming up, you know, he's a tough guy, and so. That makes me excited, you know, knowing he's 7-0. You know, he's got finishes. Like, that excites me because it's like, great, you know, I get to prove that, you know, that I can beat tough guys. I've proven it before, and I'm looking forward to proving it again against this tough guy.
How would you describe your fighting style to someone who's never seen you fight before?
My fighting style is just obviously someone to ask me, you know, what's your fighting style? I'll just be like, you know, I like to strike, but I'll take whatever they give me. I'm striking with them, and there's a takedown, I'll take it. You give me their neck, I'll go for a submission. So my style is just go out there and just get the W. Just take whatever they give me and make things happen. So I mean, as far as my style is, you know, it's just a freestyle, you know, where I'm just gonna go out there and just take all the openings and create the openings as well. So it's just getting those W's. But I'm not sure if I explained it the way you wanted me to. But
sure.
You know, yeah, but it's like, you know, just going out there and getting that W and exploiting their openings and creating and making them create openings for me.
Yeah, it was a good description. The reason I asked was because just looking at your record, all your submission wins have been by choke. You have a triangle chokes on there, you got guillotine chokes on there. Is that something that you prefer? Do you prefer to attack the neck, or is that just that opening that you were talking about? They keep giving you these openings to attack the neck and you just keep taking them, or are you targeting that? Do you like that more than, you know, an arm bar or a heel hook? You know, do you like the chokes better?
No, yeah, I definitely do like the chokes. They just became my bread and butter. You know, the triangle and the guillotine. You know, when I was off my back, the triangle became my bread and butter. When I was doing my MMA, the guillotine was my bread and butter. So it's just one of those things where, like, yeah, it just is. I never try to look for it. I could just see it.
Right.
As soon as I would see it, I would just take it. And so. But no, it's not one of those things where, like, I'm gonna just get them in a guillotine. No, it's like I'm just gonna take an opening. But since it's my bread and butter, like for example, like the triangle when I'm on my back is my bread and butter. You know, if I see an arm bar or a triangle, you know, I'm just gonna shoot the triangle because that's just where I'm comfortable. But obviously, if they do resist that, then that's not the only thing I do. I'll make sure I switch it up. But yeah, I just love the triangle and the guillotine. It was just my bread and butter.
Mm-hmm. Coming up here on August 22nd, you're going to be fighting Marcelo Casero. What are your thoughts about him as an opponent?
I think he's a tough guy. I don't know much about him. Mm-hmm. Just whatever's on paper as far as him getting him having finishes. But I don't know much about him. I just know that he comes from a tough cat. He's a tough guy. So I mean, I'm just excited to showcase my skills against a tough opponent like him. So I'm excited, and then for a title, even better. So no ill will towards him. I hope he had a great training camp because he's a tough guy. So I want the best Marcelo in there, and so that's what I'm looking forward to getting in. And I want to make sure that I'm the best Art going in there myself.
Mm-hmm. I know earlier you said that you were looking forward to fighting a hungry up-and-comer. I know you said you were looking forward to fighting a guy who is an undefeated fighter, but was there a little bit of disappointment when you found out that you weren't going to be fighting Georgi Karkanian, who had the TPF featherweight title? Was there any disappointment there, or are you just happy to be fighting for the belt and whoever, it doesn't really matter to you?
Yeah, no, it doesn't matter to me. Mm-hmm. I mean, if they would have said I'm going to fight, Georgie, I would have been happy with that. As long as I'm fighting tough guys to prove myself, I'm happy. So, but it wasn't much of a disappointment. Like I said, it was more. Everything was just more of a surprise, just because I didn't think the Palace fights were coming back. Mm-hmm. So I didn't think they're coming back. So everything was more of a surprise. So as soon as they told me that they were going to set up the card, I was all for it. Like it did not matter to me who I was going to fight. So it wouldn't matter. I could have fought Georgie, Marcelo, whoever they wanted me to. I just wanted to, just keep getting better and just keep competing. I just want to keep having fun with this. I just want to keep having fun and just have something for my future kids to be proud of when they see pictures of their young dad doing his thing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now, on August 22nd, what are some things that Marcelo Casero is going to see that he hasn't seen from his previous opponents? What do you feel that you bring to the table that the guys in the past that he's fought haven't been able to do to him? Is there anything in there that you've seen on film that you can exploit, and is there anything that he hasn't seen that you bring to the table?
He doesn't have much tape out there, mm-hmm. and so I don't know how his opponents fought him. Mm-hmm. So I really don't know all I know. I mean, he's got more than enough tape on me to try to dissect me or whatever he needs to do. So, but as far as like new things, I mean, I'm always working on new things, and I'm always going to fight regardless. I'm going to go in there and fight. So I'm not sure what difference, but as far as on paper goes, I mean, mm-hmm. he's just going to fight a fighter who's experienced, who's fought at the Palace multiple times. So all that environment at the Palace, it's not new to me. It's like my home. So as far as that goes, it's just more. I'm just more experienced on paper. It doesn't mean anything as far as it doesn't guarantee a victory, mm-hmm. but it does guarantee that I'm prepared, that he's going to have the best Art possible. So, I mean, I'm ready to go out there and fight and just showcase my skills. But, no, I really don't know how his opponents fought him. I really don't know much about him. I've just seen 2 fights, and so I don't want to look too much into those fights. Mm-hmm. I just like to look just to kind of just see who I'm fighting, and then just never watch the fights again. Mm-hmm. I let my coaches watch the tape, and when I show up to the gym, I just follow whatever they want me to do, and I just do it. So that makes things easier on me. As long as I just train and I'm prepared to fight, I'll fight whoever they put in front of me. So, Marcelo's no different. He's just going to go in there. I'm ready to fight him, and, whatever exploits he thinks he sees openings for me, then, he's going to try them, and, of course, I'm going to go out there to prove that I'm just a better fighter regardless.
Mm-hmm. Now, I'm sure you're hoping that the entire Palace will be cheering for you, but how many people have you personally invited? How many people have hit you up for tickets to come see you fight?
Yeah, normally normally I always average about 70 to 80 people personally from me, and then so about 70 or 80, and then the rest will be, you know, people that, you know, from the local scene that know me, so hopefully they'll be out there cheering for me as well. But yeah, but me personally, yeah, about 70, 80 tickets so far, and then I'm still selling a few more, so we'll see how that goes.
Now, earlier you said that you visualize your fights, you visualize scenarios that you go through in a fight. How have you visualized this fight ending? When you picture it in your head, how do you see yourself getting the job done on August 22nd?
Yeah, it's just, you know, the visualization as far as for Marcelo goes, it's the same as with every other opponent. It's just obviously, you know, with my hand raised at the end. But, you know, I visualize the whole scenario. You know, I visualize, you know, me winning off my back, me winning, you know, on top, me winning on the stand-up. You know, so I do visualize all scenarios. I just make sure I just visualize the environment. I visualize myself being in there. You know, I even visualize, you know, being down a round and having to win the next round. So I just make sure I just get my mind as comfortable with any situation that may arise and be prepared. So when I'm there, I mean, when I'm in the fight, like, I don't even think. Everything just, like, I'm no longer thinking. It's just doing, I'm just going to do, and put things together as the fight goes on. But yeah, as far as visualization with Marcelo, it's nothing specific towards him. You know, it's only just his body, like, in my mind, is just him in front of me. But it's the same scenario with every other fight. It's just, you know, visualizing all scenarios and me, you know, putting myself in that situation, and then obviously my body is feeling it, and just me, you know, just calming everything down, you know, calming down my heart rate, and just, you know, seeing myself doing what I need to do to win, and then at the end, just feeling the high of the victory.
Now, should you win this fight on August 22nd, will this belt mean more to you than the PFC title, considering that you had that rough patch and you've obviously been able to rebound and you've looked better than ever? Will it mean the same, or will it have a little bit more of a special meaning considering where you've come from?
No, it's gonna be more special because it's more of my redemption. You know, it's like I always told myself, if I, you know, was to win the title again, that I would do it right. And what I mean by doing it right would just mean it's just, you know, being more responsible, being the face of the featherweights for the TPF. You know, like, you know, really taking responsibility of, you know, being considered the champion of the organization. You know, knowing that it's not a given, and that, you know, and then knowing that the next fighter is going to be the number one contender. So no, it's going to be more, and then plus it's going to be more because, like, it's more like everything came back full circle, you know, where I'm getting another opportunity to do it right, you know, and so yes, I think it's going to be more special, and you know, obviously, you know, my mentality is different, my more mature, so it's I'm really excited because at first, like I said, everything was just on trying to win, just win, get as far as I can in the sport, keep having fun. Not stressing over that I have to win, not stressing that that I can't lose, not stressing that what's going to happen if this happens. No, I just want to go out there and have fun, let my skills speak for themselves, and keep winning and have a good time. So the belt never really mattered at the time. I just said, you know what, I'm just going to fight whoever they put in front of me, and that's who I'm fighting. But obviously now that it's the belt, you know, of course, I'm going to be happy about it. I'm excited to fight for the title. I'm excited to be champion again. So now that I did get the title shot, I did get to put more thoughts into it as far as what it would mean. And it would mean, you know, doing it right, taking responsibility, and, you know, being a great champion representing the Tachi Palace fight.
Art, I'm very happy and very excited for you that you're getting another opportunity to fight for a belt. You had the PFC title, you fell on hard times, you've been able to rebuild yourself, go on this 6-fight win streak where you've looked better than ever. Now you're fighting for the TPF Featherweight title. I'm very happy for you, and I really appreciate you taking the time out to talk. I know it's been a very long interview, but before I let you go, do you have any sponsors you'd like to thank, and is there anything you'd like to say to the fans?
Yes. Just want to tell all the fans, that have supported me, I just want to say thanks. And that, that one thing about me is that I'm out there having fun. I don't fight with any pressure. I've accomplished everything I wanted to accomplish as far as being a professional. Obviously, there's always more goals. So my first goal was to be a professional fighter. I accomplished that. My goal was to have a winning streak. I accomplished that. I had a goal to be a champion at an organization. I accomplished that. And so every time I just built goals. And so, and then now I'm on another winning streak. So obviously now I got more goals to make it to the UFC. And so I just want to say that, tell people that, I thank them for the support, and I'll just remind them that, I'm always out there having fun. I fight with no pressure. I'm continuing more goals, and hopefully we'll continue them. But if not, then I'm just having fun. I'm not stressing out over anything. And then as far as sponsor goes, oh man, I should have my list ready. Put me on the spot. I do want to thank my sponsors. We buy gift cards. They're in Fresno. Cataract Farming. Massage by Marina. Pacific Martial Arts, who takes care of all the coaches and all my training fees. And so, who else? You put me on a good spot. Controla Trucking. It's my uncle who has sponsored me for the last 5 years. Make sure that I'm not stressing over anything. Make sure he buys everything I need. Radich Trucking as well. And I'm pretty sure I'm forgetting some more people. But whoever I forgot, I'm sorry. I should have my list ready. But I just want to thank everybody. I want to thank you, Mike, for this interview. It's been awesome, man. It was a cool interview because, it just kind of, makes me, go back in time and just reminisce and look back on how far I've come. And sometimes, sometimes you need that reminder again. And I was kind of happy that this interview happened. It reminded me of a lot of things. So it was actually enlightening for me as well. So I appreciate it.
Mm-hmm. Art, thank you for taking the time to talk. I really appreciate it. Good luck August 22nd at Tachi Palace Fight 16 against Marcelo Casero.
Thank you so much.